News.
Yeah,
Too many buttons that has to press before live. Okay, cool. Yeah, okay, let me go live. Oh, okay, great. It's live. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And today, Vahé will introduce MRTK 3 for mixed reality. And if you are interested in using MRTK 3 to develop your Quest, feel free to join us and ask questions on LinkedIn live. I will pass the questions to Vahé. Okay, then I will pass the baton to Vahé. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Dominic. Hello, everyone. Good to be here. So just a quick introduction. This will be an info session on MRTK3 for those individuals who have probably have heard about it, but never got the opportunity to actually take a look at it and see how to use it. And yeah, let's just get started and see how we can go about it. So a little bit of background about myself. So I've been in the industry for quite some time already. And over the past few years, I've been concentrating mostly on the mixed reality, virtual reality parts of it, specifically on the enterprise and industrial applications and what kind of benefits they would be. So traditionally, when we started doing this type of development, we were targeting entertainment, and we were doing a lot of like proof of concept material for entertainment companies such as Viacom and etc. And over the course of the years, what we decided to do is also start targeting enterprise and industry, specifically speaking, the GMP manufacturing, good manufacturing practices, and etc. for training modules. So that's pretty much a little bit of background about myself. If you want to learn more, please reach out to me and we can discuss other stuff as well. So what is MRTK? MRTK is a framework, a toolkit that was originally developed by Microsoft for their HoloLens devices. But from the beginning, what they decided to do is kind of make it hardware agnostic. That was the main intention of MRTK. And even though primarily its focus was HoloLens and the HoloLens device families, they do support third-party hardware as well. And this is done through what's called the OpenXR framework. So if a particular device and the hardware is supporting the OpenXR standards, then chances are that MRTK is going to be available to support it as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at how to get started. So the design and development environment, obviously, we are going to target Unity. Of course, there's also the Unreal Engine, but specifically Unity is the environment that we are going to be concentrating on. And you need to have Unity 2021.3.21 or higher with the MRTK 3 framework. And you also need to install mixed reality features tools for Unity just to get started. The easiest way to actually get started on designing and developing mixed reality using the MRTK is to clone their repository. And once you go to the repository, they have a really good documentation over here. I would encourage to utilize a Git client to actually clone this. It does use LFS, so make sure that you do instantiate or initiate your LFS feature when you're cloning this. And later on in the presentation, we'll get into a little more hands-on to see how to get that about. So the easiest way to get started is to clone it. And later on, I'll show you some examples and demos of how to do that. So let's take a look at some of the domains. So XR technology is becoming extremely useful now in certain criterias and domains, right? Education is one of the primary areas of focus that a lot of money is actually being funded. Education, healthcare, manufacturing, all of these different domains have crossovers. I specifically was designing a platform. I was part of a startup that concentrated on training, creating a platform for training content, training scenarios for healthcare applications. So there's quite a bit of interesting areas over there that we can go ahead and target. Recently, I've been concentrating on what's called the digital twin, and the digital twin is a combination of the XR technologies, artificial intelligence, robotics, and a bunch of other disciplines that together collectively allow a particular institute or organization be able to utilize not just XR, but all of the other really cool technologies that are available right now to simulate and run their manufacturing facilities and or training materials for their workforce. A big example of this is actually in the car manufacturers. So if you consider car manufacturers like BMW or Mercedes-Benz, they have already utilizing digital twins, which part of that is the XR technology to develop and design their next generation of manufacturing facilities and all of the different types of procedures and all of the different types of trainings that they need to do for the actual workforce to handle and to maintain those manufacturing facilities. So education, healthcare, manufacturing are big areas where XR technology is going to become more consumed, of course, in combination with artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, IoTs, and etc. Right. So when we talk about digital twins, we actually are talking about a combination of all of these different technologies coming together to create the whole ecosystem. So yes, so automotive, architecture, military, and defense, these are other domains which we discussed. These are all areas that are heavily now trying to utilize XR technology, again, in combination with AI, robotics, and etc., to make the workflow of their internal organization much better, the training of their workforce much better, and etc. So there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities here, and the tools and the frameworks that are available now make it actually rather simple to go about and to actually incorporate such systems and integrate them with the existing enterprise applications that they may have, whether it's a learning management system, content management system, their security systems, and etc. So the world, the tool set is there, the frameworks are there, and the hardware is at a point where it's much easier to deploy and it's much easier to actually acquire them, right? They used to be pretty expensive, but with the recent advances in technology from the hardware perspective, you can get pretty decent, mixed reality headsets for very economical price, right? So Quest 3 is an example of that. And it's actually a really, really good device. If it's the first time you're venturing into mixed reality, Quest 3 is actually a very good device. It's not just the entry. I wouldn't even say it's an entry-level device. It does have a lot of really high quality, high features that will enable those who, for say, cannot afford HoloLens 2 or Meta Quest Pro or the upcoming Apple Vision Pro. Those are kind of like a little on the higher spectrum. Quest 3 has done a fabulous job, actually, and they have introduced a device that provides a lot of really high quality features with a very nice entry price point. So it's really easy to get started. And one of the primary focuses of this discussion is how to use MRTK to actually be able to deploy it onto the Meta Quest family, whether it's Quest 2, Quest 3, or Quest Pro. It applies to all of them. All right, so there are some challenges, right? I mean, if you've been in this industry, you know that there are some challenges still today. Even though we have much improved tool sets, much more improved frameworks, much more improved workflows, we still do have some challenges when it comes to this particular area and domain, the medium. The medium itself is an actual challenge, right? So designing for three-dimensional spaces requires the designers of the applications, right? The UI, UX designers or the product designers to actually have a good understanding of the 3D space, right? How to utilize the 3D space. Up to this point, for the last 40 plus years, majority of the designs and the designers that have been utilizing and the design tools that we had were specifically for two-dimensional spaces, right? The 2D real estate. You're either the primary screen, right? The computer screen or the monitor or the mobile devices, right? These are all two-dimensional projections, right? So now we are getting into the 3D space, right? So now the whole form factor is changing. And when the form factors change, the opportunities for much more better designs come about. But it's a different type of a mindset, right? It's a different type of a shift that, generally speaking, everybody has to do, right? From the designer's perspective and also from a developer's perspective, because now you have a third dimension that you didn't have before. So that's one particular area that still is a challenge. A lot of people may not have the opportunity to have, learned about how to go about and start addressing and bringing their skills from their two-dimensional tool sets into the 3D environment. And the second factor is the actual tools themselves, right? Lack of design tools. Majority of the design tools today are specifically targeting the traditional application form factors, right? Which is the 2D space, right? The 2D screen, the 2D canvas. So the tools themselves have to improve. Luckily, there are a couple of tools that are coming up that have been in the domain that are going to allow designers specifically to be able to translate their skills into this new domain. And then the last main challenge that we still have is the lack of users, right? The user adoption is still a big challenge. So people that are in this domain or have been playing around with mixed reality, virtual reality, and augmented reality are a very closed loop of people, right? So if you've been fortunate enough or if you have the passion to get into this particular field, probably you've been doing it for the past 7+ years. But still, there's a lot of people that have either don't even have the ability to get engaged with this kind of a technology, right? Even though the price points have dropped down to something that's affordable, but still there's a lot of people that don't have access to these tools, right? The actual hardware. I'm talking from a hardware perspective. And the second thing is from an enterprise perspective. When you want to deploy this type of sophisticated platforms, from an enterprise perspective, there are some challenges that how are you going to maintain these devices, right? So that's a big challenge that we have to think, like whenever we are designing our systems, our platforms, we have to also think about how is the client, right? How are our clients going to be able to integrate the existing hardware and the software platforms that we are designing and deploying into their existing enterprise solutions, right? It's a little bit of a different of a beast that we need to start thinking about. And the second big item, let's say those are all technical stuff, that there are solutions to it and we can solve it. The next big thing is the actual users, right? The workforce, the people that need to actually start utilizing these tools, they need a lot of training, right? So they need a lot of training, just like how we need to train people on how to utilize simple basic computer skills, right? Like sending emails, doing those basic computational tasks. Similarly, there's a lot of training that needs to be done on the enterprise level, and making sure that people are comfortable on using the form factor, right? How to actually utilize the device, how to put it on, how to engage, how to control their controllers, the hand gestures, and etc. So there's some learning curves and user adaptations as well. So these are some common challenges that we are facing, and these are things that both designers and programmers need to address, right? And slowly, like the industry is trying to come up with better design tools and better way to integrate the existing tools and frameworks that we have with the existing infrastructure that, again, large organizations and enterprises have invested, if not millions, hundreds of millions of dollars into orchestrating. So those are some of the challenges, right? So let's go ahead and see what are some of the design tools that today we have as far as 3D content is concerned. I think, Dominic, you guys had a good info session on Shapes XR. Shape XR is a great design. It's kind of like a Figma for 3D designers, right? For Figma, for UI UX designers, that enables you to actually do quick prototyping and etc. and so forth in a nice environment, collaborative environment, and multiple people can join the session and walk through the actual design before real implementation is being done. One drawback that Shapes XR has is that everybody who wants to join, they need to have the actual headset. And again, as we discussed previously, not too many people have access to these headsets. So there's another tool called Bezier. Bezier is another design tool specifically for creating this type of 3D environments and contents and sharing it. And one of the benefits of Bezier is that you don't actually need to you're not required to have the actual headset, but you can still perform similar functionality to get your design concepts across, right? So both of these tools are great tools. Each one has its own pros and cons, just like everything else. But from a UI UX perspective, if you want to do any design work, that'll get you up quickly and running without doing any coding. These two tools are now available, and again, I encourage people that are in the field to take a look at this and see which one would be beneficial to them. All right, so these are some design tools, and the big challenge that we as developers face. So as developers and as companies, as solution providers, one of the big drawbacks is that has always been there, even before mixed reality, was how to support multiple platforms, right? Even if you go back like 10, 20, 15 years or 20, 15 years, when you're doing, like, for example, mobile development, right? We had two primary mobile platforms. There's more, but primarily it was iOS and Android, right? And generally speaking, back then, you also had to, when you were creating mobile applications, you had to create it in a way that you support both these particular platforms, right? And each one has their own hardware sets and etc. So that was always a problem, right? Being able to support multiple platforms, being able to support multiple hardware, and etc. Nothing has changed. It's still the same. So in the mixed reality environment, it's pretty much the same. We have multiple hardwares. We have different manufacturers. We have each manufacturers used to have their own SDKs and etc. Again, we are going back like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, where MRTK wasn't there, when OpenXR wasn't there, where there was only very few players in the marketplace, and also each one of those players had their own SDKs, right? So let's say if you wanted to target a specific hardware device, you pretty much had to utilize that particular SDK. And if you wanted to support multiple devices, then now there was a overhead, right? There was an overhead to be able to support multiple devices, which means that now there is more cost from a development perspective to be able to sustain and maintain this platform. And that's what's being trying to solve by MRTK and frameworks such as MRTK. So hardware support-wise, MRTK now supports pretty much a wide variety of headsets that are out there. Again, even though this is a Microsoft originated technology, they have done a really superb job on making sure that they are open, and from the get-go, they wanted to make sure that they kind of create an open-ended and open API for support for multiple hardware, right? So it's a great way to be hardware agnostic. Now, with a caveat, that doesn't mean that it's like plug and play. It is kind of like plug and play, but it's not plug and play, right? You still have to do some work to make sure that all of those different devices are supported. And if you want to specifically use some specific features for that particular hardware that you're targeting, whether it's HoloLens 2, MetaQuest, Steam VR, or etc., right? HTC Vive, Magic Leap. Each one of these hardware, they have their own unique features, right? So if you want to tap into those specific unique features, then you still have to utilize their SDKs. But from a general perspective, from an overview perspective, MRTK or the OpenXR framework that hopefully more and more people will start utilizing and implementing is going to make it much easier to be for developers, right? For developers specifically, and for studios that are trying to design and develop, solutions for their clients. It's going to make it much easier for us to actually maintain and improve the quality of our offering. So that's one of the benefits of MRTK. So let's go ahead. Any questions so far before we jump into some of the behind the scenes stuff? Now, I talked to Dominic, and I'm not the purpose of this session was just a quick introduction to MRTK and to give a quick overview of what MRTK is and taking a look at how the environment actually looks, what would be behind the scenes. I know majority of the audience is coming from a design background, so I'm not going to get too technical, but at the same time, before we jump into taking a look at seeing how to set up the environment and how to get it started, are there any specific questions?
Yeah, sure. I think everything is amazing, and thank you so much for speaking for the event. And I saw some of the questions from the chat. Give me a sec. I need to pull those things up. I remember I saw it. Is there any other design tool apart from BASI and Ships XR? And this question was asked by many. And I answer Figma, Blender. I mean, those, if you want to get to the original one, yeah, Figma, Blender is free out there. And then you can totally do, for example, like a Figma for 2D, Blender for 3D. But I mean, it's just my first answer. Vahé, if you have any other answer, feel free to answer the question so far.
Sure, thanks, Dominic. I think that there's a lot of design tools out there. Like Figma is one of the primary ones that a lot of designers are using. But again, if you recall, we mentioned that Figma originally or primarily their focus is on the traditional medium, right? The 2D screen, whether it's like a website or a mobile application. I think I believe they're slowly also trying to like extend it and have some 3D or metaverse kind of extension. But as far as I'm aware, Shape XRs and Busy are the two primary ones that are specifically trying to target this particular area from a design perspective for designers. Of course, there's other tools. If you are like a 3D artist or a modeler, then of course you do have a wide variety of other environments like Blender, ZBrush, 3D Studio Max. So there's other 3D modeling packages. And if you are comfortable in utilizing those tools, then that would be great. By the way, and just the sideways. So I personally use MRTK and Unity to do most of my prototyping, and MRTK is great for prototyping. So I mean, hopefully that's one of the key takeaways from this talking session. So you can actually, if you're comfortable using Unity, and the basics of Unity, and once you set up MRTK, I'll walk you guys through as far as how easy it would be to, to some proof of concepts and actually putting together some UI UX, right? So some really cool UI UXs out of the box actually, and again, I'm sure there's a lot of very creative people out there that you can take what the framework provides you and you can take it to the next level.
Yeah, by the way, Vahé will kind of like help us or kind of create a workshop pretty soon. So if you are interested in learning how to use like MRTK to create your MetaQuest app, feel free to, just post it on the comments and share with us what you are looking for, right? Are you a beginner or are you advanced? What Vahé has been like working in MRTK for years. Like, yeah, he's one of the person that has been working on XR since the beginning. Yeah, so he also taught in university and also work on HoloLens. And he's told me like a long time ago, he said that when he code XR, he used command line, which means that something that we don't even know, like the original forms of XR. So he has a very huge or a very deep understanding of technology. And I told him that, hey, our audience are pretty much a lot of UX designer. So please make it as easy as possible. But I mean, for our audience, if you are interested in listening more tech parts or anything, and if you are very interested in learning MRTK, feel free to put on the comments. And we would love to kind of like work on things that according to your needs. Yeah, that's just me. Okay, go
Cool.
ahead.
Thank you, Dominic. Actually, I should have given some background about how we met. So before COVID, me and Dominic, we actually had an office back then in Burbank, and we used to exchange a lot of ideas back and forth. Dominic was concentrating, of course, on the UI UX part of the applications, and I was doing majority of the implementation. So that's how we met, and we kept the relationship, and now here we are. So COVID changed quite a bit of things. Location-wise, everyone has moved away, but yeah, that's how we know each other. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the behind the scenes. Okay, so getting started with the template. So I would say the easiest way to start with MRTK is to, and I would make the slides available. And after the session, I'll work with Dominique to share all of this content with everyone. So I would say the easiest way to actually get started is to go to this particular Git repository, and the link is going to be available later on for easy access, and just clone this, right? So this is the Mixed Reality Toolkit for Unity, and this is...
Can you share this to the chat, and I will post on the LinkedIn Live? Yeah, cool, thank you.
Let me know if you got that.
Yes, I got it. Thank you.
That's a good idea, actually. So I'll share all of these links in the chat, Dominic, and then you can go ahead and pass it along.
Yeah, cool.
So this is the main Git repo right now, as far as MRTK. So after MRTK 2.8 and everything that has happened this year in the industry, and also with the Mixed Reality division at Microsoft and how they spinned off, this is the new repository for MRTK and Unity. Again, MRTK is not going away. It's here to stay. And there's going to be continuous improvements on this. So this is something that, again, a lot of enterprise folks have invested a lot of money into. And I believe it's going to be here for some time. So just a note on that. So this is a great place to get started. Of course, there's great documentation. One of the good things about Microsoft is that they do, if you don't give them credit for anything, you should give them credit for actual documentations. They're really good at documenting and presenting technical stuff to their dev community. Okay, so we go ahead and clone this. Once you clone this, that's pretty much all you need, honestly speaking, because everything you need to get started is actually within this particular project, right? So once this is cloned, it will take some time for it to be cloned because it's kind of large. But once you have cloned it, when you open up Unity, and I'm assuming you guys are familiar with Unity, so I'm not gonna get into like a lot of like the basic stuff, like how to open up the projects and how to get to it. One of the main things that you would get right out of the box is that in the scenes folder, you're gonna have a bunch of sample scenarios, right? Sample scenes that Microsoft has provided as their dev template, right? So MRTK dev template. And taking a look at this, you would notice that this looks like kind of like a style sheet, right? So if you're coming from, again, from a design background, and if you're coming from, let's say, a web-based design background, similarly to how you have CSS, style sheets, and etc., in MRTK, you also have those concepts. So they might be a little different, but conceptually or concept-wise, they're pretty much the same, right? And a good benefit is that, again, this is the Canvas UI tier sheet sample. And when you go in here, there's also a layout, right? One of the primary things in UI UX is the layout. How are you going to subdivide the screen, right? And in this case, even though we are in 3D, your actual UI is going to still be in a plane-like environment, right? In this particular case. So you still need to know how to lay out and how to subdivide the space, right? And how to basically include the different types of UI elements that you're going to have there, right? So this sample allows you to quickly take a look at some styles that you can do. And one of the good things is that you can actually take the samples as a designer, right? You can take one of the samples. So for example, this is a collection of action buttons, right? You can navigate, you can actually see there's a bunch of different components attached to it. These are like the boundaries, the bounding boxes, and etc. But that's pretty much for the interactability, right? The type of interactions you want to implement, whether you want to utilize the built-in mechanics for the interactions, the animations, the behavior of these objects. You can use what is coming out of the box, or again, you can customize it as you see. But one of the big benefits is that there's a lot of really out-of-the-box content available that you don't have to start from scratch, right? So for example, buttons are already designed for you. This is an action button. If you open up the action button, again, I don't want to get into too much of the technical details, but if you're interested in learning more in depth, then we are planning on having an actual workshop maybe sometime next year that we can dive a little more in more depth and do a hands-on project together. But if you take a look at one of these UI elements, right? For example, this is an action button. The action button already has these are like pressable button. This is coming from the framework, the MRTK framework. And this is already set up for you to be ready to go. All you have to do is implement the on-click events and hook up your scripts for any type of action that you want to perform with it. From a design perspective, you would see that there is a bunch of different layers over here. So for example, there's a back plate, right? And the back plate has its own type of textures, raw images that you can modify, and so forth. There is the what's called the back glow, right? Those are some interactions. Again, we have scaling effects and the mesh effects. And then we have the front plate. The front plate is where you're going to put majority of your text-based elements, right? So this is kind of like a hierarchy of the action button and some of the nested structures that you can enable and disable. So for example, over here, notice that there's an icon. If I go ahead and enable this icon, now this button turns into a button with an icon, right? And then of course you can get into the actual structure, right? The UI button, where from here you can select from a set of icon sheets, which you can, by the way, create your own customized one. This is the default one that comes by with the MRTK, but you can create, again, there's a lot of UI UX designers. So this you will still do the same kind of work that you're doing. You just need to learn how to apply those skills to a different medium, right? To a different medium, to a different framework. But you can go ahead and create your own icon set here, and you can change the icon. For example, this one is right now it's utilizing icon 117. I can very well change it to the following and etc. All of these configurations, by the way, guys, can be driven dynamically through the code, right? So you can actually construct these buttons, generate these buttons dynamically, and etc. But from a design perspective, from a UI design perspective, the cool thing about it is that you get a pretty nice canvas. And if you're familiar, if one of the cool things that MRTK 3 has done over the previous release of MRTK 2.x is that now it's actually utilizing the Unity's canvas. So if you're familiar with the Unity canvas system and how that works, life is going to be very easy. And creating UI UX for a mixed reality environment using MRTK is going to be super fast and super easy compared to previously, right? So one of the biggest benefits for MRTK3 is the fact that now they have incorporated the Unity canvas and they're supporting Unity canvas. So when it comes to like layouts, and layouts is a huge thing when it comes to UI UX, right? Layouts meaning like how to organize, how to lay out your buttons, your icons, your texts, and etc. Right? So layout is a big thing. In MRTK 2.8 or 2.x, it was a headache. It was truly a headache. So a lot of things we had to do custom. We had to build a lot of custom UI components to basically address some of the shortcomings of the previous release. So specifically, if we wanted to do a lot of like data oriented, right? And majority of applications are data driven, right? So, and the UI that we need to develop needs to reflect and adjust and dynamically change based on the data and the scenarios that we are addressing. So that was a big, big challenge that we, as you know, mixed reality developers using MRTK had to face, and we did a lot of work solving those things. But with MRTK3, you know, that has been, at least some of those things have been reduced. It's a great way to, you know, it's really superb, honestly speaking. So this is a tear sheet, I would think, and it's going to be super easy, right? So there's different ways. There is like side scrolling bars. Of course, you can modify the look and feel of all of these things, right? So the mechanics are there. The point of this is that the mechanics are there. The actual behind the scenes, right? All of the actual integral parts of the UI components are there, but you are able to modify the visual respects, right? You can change, again, going back to like 3D modeling, you can go ahead and utilize, you know, your skill sets to actually come up with much more creative ways of representing this particular UI components, right? So this is one scene that I wanted to share with you guys. The other scene, let's go ahead and discard the changes. And I'm gonna unload the scene. And I'm going to bring up the other scene. It's called the canvas example. Now again, from a UI UX perspective, this right here is a pretty nice, solid way of representing like a main dashboard, right? So everything you see over here is using MRTK, and it's using the Unity's canvas layout architecture as well. So again, you have your sidebar over here, just like any other UI UX design elements. You have your tab features up here where you can switch over the tabs. Of course, you have to program them to load the different content. This area can be scrollable. You can either scroll it vertically or horizontally. Again, all of those things are available out of the box. And over here, you probably have a bunch of other, let's say, subheadings, right? So let's say if you have your main header text, your section headers, or different kind of like modules that you would like to have emphasis on. This is an area where when the user selects on it, on the side, they can get much more better detailed explanation or some other activities that they may be able to do, right? So um, this is another style or sample from, again, UI UX perspective that you can utilize to get started. So Dominic, do we have any questions before I move on to a couple of other things?
I think, Peter, do you wanna unmute yourself and ask your questions?
Yes, I was just wondering if it's possible to embed web pages or JavaScript applications inside of the MRTK, and could you bind JavaScript actions to a button in the toolkit?
I don't believe so. So Unity is you would, okay. So not by default. Let me rephrase that. Not by default, right? So by default, that's impossible to do. But there are packages and there are other off-the-shelf products from Unity's asset store that might allow you to do something like that, and you can incorporate that into this mixed reality scene. So that will be outside of MRTK. It's not going to be part of MRTK. So the purpose of MRTK is to kind of set up the fundamental rig, right? The fundamental rig where you would be able to set up the actual camera, the headset, and your input systems, right? The actual inputs. So it's pretty much the driver is the driver or the encapsulation of those drivers that are going to enable you to create all of these interactions with the 3D environment that you're creating, if that makes sense. So by default, MRTK will not allow you to do that, no. Or Unity by default is not going to allow you to do that. The primary language that is utilized to design and develop Unity applications, whether it's traditional applications or mixed reality applications, is C#.
I have a question. While we have this image on the screen, this nice image of the lake and the trees and so forth, I was just curious. Dominique's meetup groups have about 7,000 members in them, and roughly half of them come from a stereoscopic 3D background. And so I was wondering, is it easy to display a stereoscopic 3D image, for example, where we're seeing this scene of the lake? So in other words, in the stereoscopic 3D image, you might have a side-by-side image where the left eye image is on the left side and the right eye image is on the right side of the image, right half of the image. And maybe you would click a flag or something like that that would say it's stereoscopic versus just 2D. And so it would automatically channel the left eye image to the left eye and the right eye image to the right eye. Can this do that?
Not by default, but those are some of the custom development that you would have to do in order for that to function. So I don't have an actual an answer on top of my head, but by default, that's not. I don't believe that's possible.
Okay.
I've never tried it, but I can go ahead and look into that and follow up with you later.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure. So, all right. I think Jim, did you have a question? Or that was
me. I'll put my hand down now. Sorry.
Okay, cool. All right, cool. So these are some of the actual design views, and of course there's a bunch of other sample scenes over here that you can get into, right? So I just showed you guys one from a UI perspective. There's another sample scene that I want to show you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and discard changes here, so we don't. And I'm gonna load the scene. you might have seen this in one of the posts I have done, but I had this project for fun. It was a traditional 3D project, a game actually called the Battleship, and I decided to actually deploy. I decided to see how easy it would be to take a traditional 3D application and convert that into mixed reality application and deploy it on Quest 3. And that's basically what this is, right? So if you notice, the UI UX templates are again, the easiest way to get started is to go and get one of these tear sheets from here, and then you would start modifying those things, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and click play on this. And this could be something that we might cover in the actual workshop. If there's an interest, this is one of the projects that would be a potential to actually see how to design and develop a working game. Albeit this might be a little complex for a workshop, but we will come up with something. So let's go ahead and get started. And this UI is pretty much utilizing all of the concepts that you saw from the examples that come from the templates. Of course, what I've done is modify them and change their styles and etc. The point of this demonstration is to show you guys how easy. Of course, we won't get into the details here, but in the follow-up workshop, we'll get into how easy it would be to actually create really cool three-dimensional applications, 3D UIs, and how to use MRTK to expedite this. Believe it or not, it's rather simpler than meets the eye. So it's not, once you get used to it, once you actually become familiar with the framework, you would notice that it's rather enjoyable and super easy to start actually doing a bunch of prototypes, right? So, this can become your design proof of concept, right? Being able to actually doing a design proof of concept. And just if you're just doing the UI part, generally speaking, you don't need to do a lot of code behind, right? If you want to, of course, if you want to create a real applications, you of course need to do a lot of programming. But just from a design perspective, to put together like a quick prototype or to put together like a proof of concept to illustrate to your clients and etc., it's pretty straightforward. It's really easy to get up and running. So I'll go ahead and one of the cool things is that you can actually simulate all of these hand gestures and doing. And you see how we modify the UI dynamically. Right, so let's go ahead and put it vertically. And sometimes it's really hard to simulate it over. Oops, I didn't select any. So let's go ahead and select that. And let's go ahead and select this one and let's place it there. So now we have placed our objects, right? And you can very easily navigate the whole environment, and you can start playing the game, right? And you see that the UI is responding. It's going to be a real-time response. And all you're doing is, if you're familiar with the game battle board, is that you take turns. It's a turn-based event. You start shooting your opponents. In this particular case, you have two boards, and the AI is going to try to shoot you, and etc. And that's that's a really cool way to get started. Now, since we are in 3D space, it's really hard to do this. I'll go ahead and maybe do a recording of, you can actually very easily make some adjustments and put it just like that, so it's more realistic and closer to how the actual game should be, right? And then you can come behind here. If you deploy this and you actually deploy it on a headset, you can also go through the pass-through, right? Right now, of course, pass-through is not, there's no way to actually simulate a pass-through here. Well, technically you can, but that's a different topic. But basically all this black area, if you do decide to utilize pass-through in Quest 3, will be your physical surrounding, and then you would have your actual 3D environment placed in that. All right. So Dominic, I'm not sure how much time we have. There's a lot to talk about. I can go back to actually the slides here.
Yeah, I mean, right now we have about 13 people watching on LinkedIn Live. And then, yeah, I think a lot of people are from 3D background and UX UI background. Yeah, I mean, feel free to share, and I might have some questions later. And I'm really interested in seeing OpenXR because I know there are some debate for people who want to use OpenXR for like so-called metaverse or open AI cloud, that types of digital layer of the entire humanity. And the OpenXR seems is the best framework. Okay, you changed to MRTK. But anyway.
This one is MRTK, yeah. The OpenXR is right here.
Oh, yeah. So
what I wanted to cover, we actually jumped into like the demo a little bit sooner.
No worries.
But basically, when you clone the repo, by default you're going to get all of these different MRTK packages, right? So these are all the MRTK 3 packages. Again, this is not the latest because this project has been there for some time, but you're going to have all of the packages by default cloned into your application. If you do want to start from scratch, that's when you need to have this mixed reality features tools, right? This will enable you to start like a blank project, and you can pick and choose the types of features that you want to incorporate into your project, right? Each one of these modules is a specific package, right? That now with MRTK's new architecture, each one of these things is like a separate package. You don't need to have all of them, right? So you can pick and choose which ones you want, and you can incorporate only those guys. The next set of packages is, of course, the OpenXR plugin that you need to incorporate. So these are some of the packages that are required to get started, right? So MRTK, obviously. After MRTK, we have the OpenXR plugin and also the built-in Unity XR packages. So these are the ones, particularly part of this sample that I illustrated you guys. Again, this was a couple of months. This is a couple of months old, so there's some changes in the industry. So the versions may not be the latest, but the concept again is the same. And of course, we have Oculus, right? So you don't require the actual Oculus integration to deploy it. But if you do want to use some of the features, aka pass-through, right? That's one of the main features that we would like to utilize actually in majority of the Quest-related application. Then you would need to go ahead and download the OVR package, right? And this is deprecated, by the way. So the one, again, this just recently got deprecated, right? So August 19, 2023, right? It got deprecated. And
I can have some implement information.
Sure.
I build and mixed reality game using the old one, deprecate one. And
Yes.
then after like a few weeks ago, I started to realize that the controller was not working. So that's why I kind of like trying to figure out what's going on. So I go online, and there was another plugin called Oculus All-in-One. And that one was, they are trying to advertising. And I kind of like I migrate all my project into another new one. And they are doing the building block, which means that you just add in and then everything just implement automatically. So all-in-one, that is the new one that has all the automation. But if you are controller based, they are trying to, you can see Meta is trying to copy or follow inspired by Apple. So they are pretty much using all the hand tracking, and you can see
Yes.
the new one has the throw, and
Yes.
everything is hand, and they only have one controller. And so that's why I can see like the future of it, and it has the eye-hand interaction. So if you are doing the controller one, and I feel like I don't even know whether they add a bug or something to controller or something. Maybe I was wrong, but the something will be a little hard to work on for the controller, and it will kind of force you slowly to migrate to the hand one. Yeah, that's just my my
Yes. Yes.
thought. Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. So this specific version, by the way, OVR 56. If you want to integrate MRTK with Oculus, and you want it's guaranteed to work. So this particular version, the 56, is guaranteed to work, but it is deprecated, and the new package, right? This is the new XR SDK that Meta is pushing, and Dominic, you're on target. So there's so many changes happening right now in the industry, is just insane, right? So you can go ahead and this would be the new package that you would install, and this is specifically, of course, for Meta, right? So it's going to have a bunch of all of the new cool features that the Quest Pro and the Quest 3 are enabling from a hardware perspective that you can utilize as a software API to incorporate. And hand tracking is one of the big ones, right? Hand tracking, eye tracking for the Quest Pro, and etc. Right? So all of those things, by the way, going back here, where were we? So utilizing MRTK, utilizing the OpenXR, and utilizing the Meta SDK, you are pretty much, you have majority of the functionality that any of the device provides you as far as the Quest 3. There is one caveat here. So the Quest controllers, the hand tracking, is not OpenXR standard yet. So that's one problem. So so the controllers will work, but the hand tracking or visualization of the actual hand and hand interaction using MRTK is not going to work, right? The controllers will work. It actually detects, so it will detect your hands, but the actual interactability of integrating like interactions, specifically for interactions, close interactions do work, right? So if you approach the actual object you want to interact with and you select it, like that's called a close interaction, that actually works. What's called the hand menu, the hand menu works out of the box. The near interaction works, but far interaction does not work. And that's an issue not with MRTK, but that's an issue that Meta has not yet incorporated those open standards into their hand tracking APIs, as far as I'm aware of. So I haven't looked at the latest package. I'm not sure if that's fixed or not. But as of the versions that I'm utilizing and the versions that I'm using to implement, that's one of the caveats. Yes, I think, Jim, you have a question?
Yeah, I just have to ask this now that we're talking about hand tracking. On the Vision Pro, it's got 12 cameras on it, and that includes infrared cameras that look down at your hands if they're in your lap, along with an infrared illuminator to pick up, these hand interactions when your hands are down in your lap. Now, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the Quest series does not have those downward facing cameras. And so if you're going to be using hand interactions, you're going to actually have to hold them up in the air, which is going to lead to gorilla arms. Am I correct?
Correct. So the camera positioning on the Quest 3, it's if you actually see the device, it's not truly, so they do have a couple of them down here, but you're right. If your hands are too close to your body, then it's gonna have a difficult time of tracking it.
Okay.
So generally speaking, whenever I start a session, I first make sure that the actual headset can track my hands. So I put it in front of me and I shake it a little bit here and there, so it actually picks up it. And once it's picked up, then it does a really rather good job of tracking.
But you still have to hold your hands out in front of the headset.
Correct. So if it's out of sight, right? If it's out of the view of the camera, so the blind spot of the camera, then it's gonna have a hard time.
So it sounds like the Bluetooth hand controllers might be a lot easier to use in that regard.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So usually the applications that we are implementing, we actually utilize the controllers because they are more precise and it's easier to control.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so project setting wise, so when you go to Unity and you open up the project settings, there's going to be, if it's an XR project, right? There's going to be an OpenXR, right? Under OpenXR, you got to make sure to enable the hand tracking, MetaQuest support, MetaXR features, motion controllers models are available. And then you need to also provide the Oculus Quest Touch Controller profile. Now, this is what's being utilized and integrated with the MRTK's input system. And that's basically how it picks up and communicates with this. So this is another thing that you have to do if you do this regardless if it's MRTK or not, right? So you need to go ahead and put this. There's one. Let's actually take a look at this live. So if you go to OpenXR, and we are running right now, so let me go ahead and show this. The MetaQuest Touch Pro controller right now is not compatible. It's actually not supported. This is documented. So if you want to make sure to support actual the Quest, if you want to utilize the controllers, make sure that you use the Oculus Touch controller profile and not the MetaQuest Touch Pro controller profile. This is not compatible with OpenXR. So this will not work if you are trying to mix Meta with MRTK. This will not work right now. Again, I'm not sure if this has been addressed in the new SDKs. Probably not yet, but I haven't had the opportunity to actually look at it. So that's something that probably I'll take a look at before our next workshop, if you are interested. All right, so let's go back to the slides. Okay, so OVR settings. So this is the two components that I use in this particular project, and they are actually tied up into the MRTK XR rig over here. So that's this one. It's the OVR pass-through layer. This is the component that allows you to tap into the pass-through feature. And then we have the OVR manager over here, which allows you to, of course, do some basic configuration, controllers and hands, what kind of tracking you want, what kind of, hardware features you want to enable and disable, right? So these are the two main components that I only use from the Oculus SDK. And the primary reason is this pass-through layer, right? So in our UI, just to show you what happens. This is the main UI, which is disabled right now and gets enabled at runtime. If I click on this pass-through button down here, it's calling a script. And it's a very simple script. It's, if I'm not mistaken, it's just one-liner. Yeah, and all it's doing is it's using the OVR manager, and it's basically enabling or disabling the pass-through. Rather easy. And the whole reason of for me to bring in this OVR SDK is just to have this pass-through feature, and works really nice. All right, so this was where the demo was supposed to be, but I think we went over it. I do have some videos over here. These are all videos. These are some of the projects that we are working on and a platform that we are building right now for GMP environments. And let me go ahead and run some of these videos over here. This is purely deployed on a Quest. So what you're seeing here is an actual recording of a mixed reality environment using MRTK deployed on the Quest. One of the reasons we decided to go with Quest for this type of training is the ability for us to go fully immersive, right? HoloLens is the only device, even today, besides Magic Leap, but HoloLens is one of the only devices that's a true mixed reality device, right? Meta Quest is not, Apple Vision Pro is not. Those are not an actual real mixed reality devices from a traditional standpoint, right? They are VR with pass-through capabilities. They become mixed reality through those pass-throughs, right? So they're not true holographic, right? They're not true mixed reality devices. But the Quest Pro and the Quest 3, from a training perspective, if you do want to set up like a training environment, they do have one features that is not possible for HoloLens, right? HoloLens, you always see your physical presence. It is meant for a different type of audience, right? It's meant for a different type of an audience. The Quest 3 and the Quest Pro allow you to have this pass-through, which is beneficial because we can basically either have you in a totally different immersed environment, which you can concentrate on that particular task you're doing or that particular training that you're doing, or for safety reasons or for whatever other reasons, we can also enable the pass-through. So it's a really good combination of having both of them. So in that respect, I actually kind of prefer for training having the Quest and the Quest 3 because it just enables you that. This example is an old example, but it shows you how we integrated some of the OpenAI APIs into the platform. This is still in development. Again, this is like a combination of all of these things, right? Like OpenAI, specifically ChatGPT, custom avatars, MRTK technology, and the Quest support hardware, right? Everything else is pretty much what you do. Like if you've been doing if you've been doing a lot of 3D programming or 3D games or 3D applications, I mean, all of those things are relevant, right? I mean, you have to have that foundation. If you have that foundation, acquiring this new frameworks for mixed reality is going to be super easy to do. And over here, this one is actually, again, these are all samples of deployment of the technology onto the Quest. This one is custom avatars that we are developing. And we also have inverse kinematics, right? So inverse kinematics is a interesting topic, and it allows you to actually be able to control and adjust joints in particular characters or avatars. So this is great for creating custom scenarios, setting custom scenarios before people actually start their training, right? So all of these things, again, are things that you would do as as a mixed reality developer, designer. You see that this is the Quest Pro. If you notice this, this is using Quest Pro, so you have some of that edges. If you're getting too close, you saw how that is not as high quality as the Quest 3 pass-through camera that it has. Again, this is the older example, but the point is that the frameworks that we are developing and designing, and the different types of interactions that you can do, that can get rather complicated. All right, so that's all I have for the info session. Hopefully it was educational. I have one more last thing, if you don't mind, I would like to share. There is my upcoming book. It's the second edition of Introduction to Game Programming. This is meant for people who want to get into the programming side of doing like 3D, learning how to utilize Unity and creating 3D applications. Now, those 3D applications, whether traditional 3D applications or mixed reality applications, it's not going to cover mixed reality. That's another book that I'm working on that's going to come out soon, next year. But this one specifically is for people who want to get into this kind of work, and they want to learn the fundamentals from a programming perspective. So this book is for, let's say, UI UX designers who also want to pick up some of the the programming side of things, right? How to actually interact, how to create the scripts, how to create programs to be able to do the interactions, to implement the behaviors. So
can you share the link to chat so I can share it to LinkedIn? Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Hopefully that works. So this is the pre-order link over here.
What's coming out?
January 22nd, if I'm not mistaken. So it's ready. It's actually ready. I'm just doing a bunch of like polish work. But it's going to be officially released January 22nd.
Will that include a Kindle version?
This is the Kindle version, yes.
Oh, okay, great. That's all I buy nowadays.
Yeah. So this is the first edition was paperback and also Kindle version, but with this version, I decided just to go Kindle version.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future we can have some paperback too, but it's pretty much going to be digital for now.
If I bought paper books nowadays, I'd have to add a whole new wing to my house.
Yes, I love books, so I do have quite a bit of books, but these days it's easier to have the actual digital version. You can access it anywhere.
I think one of the things that a lot of people wonder nowadays is can they use chat tools such as Chat GPT to program using MRTK? As long as your developer docs are accessible to Chat GPT, I would think that you could.
Yes, you can. So they're totally different frameworks, right? So MRTK, again, by default, MRTK does not support OpenAI, right? So OpenAI has its own SDK and APIs that you need to bring into it.
Right.
So by default, again, MRTK, the concept of MRTK or frameworks such as MRTK is to enable the developers to have a easier way to start designing and implementing the IO, basically, right? IO in this case is like the headset, right? The actual headset, and also the controllers or the hand, the controllers or the hand tracking.
Okay. I was wondering, is there any support for eye tracking in there?
Yes, yes. So eye tracking, correct, there is. So MRTK does support eye tracking. I have not used it on the Quest, but again, HoloLens is
Yeah, I think the Quest Pro is the only one.
yeah, Quest Pro is the only one that supports eye tracking. We might be able to do something on the workshop if you guys are interested. We can go ahead and do that.
I think it's an interesting topic.
Yeah. But MRTK does support all. So MRTK does support MRTK by default. HoloLens doesn't have any controllers, so it's purely hand tracking, right? So it does a very good job of hand tracking.
Do you support like meshes for room walls and things like that?
Yes, absolutely.
And I believe the Quest Pro has a LiDAR sensor. Am I correct? Dominique, you would know.
Quest Pro is, I would kind of think that Quest 3 and Quest Pro, the only difference for those two are Quest Pro, it has a camera, inner camera to capture your facial expression. So for example, if you have Quest 3, Quest Pro in Horizon World, someone can see you talk, your mouse is moving if you wear Quest Pro. And if you wink, and then you will have a winking thing. But Quest 3 is just default facial expression because there's no inner camera to capture your face. So, yeah.
Correct. Quest 3 does not do facial expressions.
Yeah. Otherwise, yeah. And I would say that Quest 3 has the eye-hand tracking as well. And Quest 3, if you see all the specs, I personally think except the facial, inner tracking, the facial expression, Quest 3 is generally better than Quest Pro.
I think, well, when I talk about LiDAR, what I'm talking about is a forward-facing sensor that gives you basically a depth image of the entire scene. It takes about 1 millisecond or 1,000 second.
I don't know the technology names, but it has a depth sensor because my game Wednesday I'm going to share like some I probably will just share the room mesh first and depth API will be later, but depth API in MetaQuest, the new scene or the new kind of you need to get from GitHub nowadays. It's very new. Pretty much go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not sure if it's using LiDAR or not. I have to check the specifications, but it does.
Maybe
but it does
Jim,
support.
if you wanna let me do fact check because for me I use the technology, but I don't really check what technology you use. So I know that Quest 3 has the depth sensor, but I don't know whether it used LiDAR or not. But I'm doing fact check now.
There's basically two approaches. They can use computer vision to try to compute the depth, or they can use LiDAR. I think LiDAR, I mean, if you look at an iPhone, an iPhone Pro or Pro Max, which has a LiDAR sensor on it, when you show it the scene, man, it picks up that room mesh instantly. And that's because of the LiDAR. From what I've seen with the Quest 3, it's not nearly as good. So I
don't believe, but I could be wrong. I don't think Quest 3 has LiDAR in there.
I think they may have originally planned it, but then didn't end up including it.
So I think it's just using the cameras and computer vision to kind of understand
Yeah,
the
yeah,
geometry.
yeah.
But I don't think it. Again, I could be wrong, but I don't think the last line of products have lidars in there.
I was sort of curious. I know a lot of, well, I'm wondering, do you think that MRTK will ever end up on the Vision Pro?
Good question. I'm not sure. That's actually something that we have to wait and see. I'm sure there are people that are working on it.
Uh-huh.
I haven't had the opportunity, honestly speaking, to look at Vision Pro too much. There was no need for us to do so. Even I know it's a hot topic to talk about, but from a actual product perspective, for us, they don't provide anything new. I mean, most of the hardware that is out there is already doing what, is doing things that Vision Pro is promising to do. So they're not doing anything innovative, honestly speaking. So the only, of course, it looks nice and it's Apple, but from a practical point of view, they're not. I mean, as far as we are concerned, they're not doing anything magical,
Yeah.
right?
I think,
HoloLens has been doing that for a long time. Quest with Quest Pro, Quest 3 is a really nice device, actually. As I said, like, so let's say if you want to get it started, and if this is the first time you're getting into it, I think Quest 3 is a fabulous product to get it started with.
yeah, I think that's a big advantage that you can get the thing in your hand right now. I think with the Vision Pro, of course, it's $3,500 plus whatever it costs to do the lenses and all that stuff.
Yeah,
But I think that it may become a lot easier to develop for that once it's released, because right now it's sort of difficult to get some of the developer information. In fact, with ChatGPT, we were trying the other day to see if we could use ChatGPT to program it, and Apple has apparently blocked ChatGPT from accessing its developer web pages, at least for Vision OS. So it's not terribly easy to develop for Vision Pro right now.
yeah.
I-
That's. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I tried Vision Pro 3 times in Apple's lab. Yeah, and yeah, just like previous, you mentioned that I mean, I couldn't make any announcement publicly due to I signed that, and if I share anything, and my Apple developer license will be canceled. But I do agree with what Vahé said that yeah, I mean, it's still in the beta mode, right? So it the actual practical usage, it will wait until it launch. So I do agree with you so far, because it's still nobody really can do anything. I mean, they are working on it, but right now the practicality of everything is still no, but they do kind of do extremely good. It's I would say they are not inventing anything new at this point, but they do kind of make the experience very good. And I mean, in Quest 3, if you put your hands in front of your eyes, there are some warp, right? The warp things will happen. But Vision Pro is pretty much just like Jim said, that the entire kind of like a visual comfortable is very, very amazing. So I would say that yeah, I mean, maybe technology is still the same thing, but Apple make it very, very good user experience. That's for sure. Yeah.
Sure.
And that once it's released, then the floodgates will open regarding information about the device for developers. Right now, that a lot of that information is sort of restricted.
Yeah. Well, actually, if you're interested in that, they did release their SDK on Unity. So I'm not sure
It's
if you're.
called Polyspatial, and Polyspatial, in
Yeah.
order to get that, you need to get Pro, right?
Correct.
The Unity
It's only
Pro.
available for pros.
Yeah,
So,
right.
but it is available. So if you do have access to the pro version of Unity, if you have a pro license, they released it a couple of, actually last month, if I'm not mistaken, or it's been out there for some time. So there is a lot of content for developers who are interested in getting started in the Vision Pro. Again, we specifically don't have any need for it or use case for it at this point, but I do keep track of it. And there's documentations out there for developers to who are interested in to actually get started if they choose to. But yes, I think, Dominic, you're right. You do need to have a pro license to
And
have access to that.
that's $2,000 a year, in case people don't know.
Yeah,
Or
and
monthly, or you pay monthly. But yes,
Yeah.
it comes out to be about that.
yeah, and as for the polyspatial, pretty much it used the ARKit, that gateway, to implement into Xcode. So
Correct.
just think of that, because you see, like use Xcode is the native language, right? And for using polyspatial is pretty much using C# to convert into C++ or Swift UI. So there will be some not really compatible things happening. And if you really want to develop a full body immersion experience, there is something called Metal. Yeah, like a meta, but with L at the end.
Right.
Yeah, Metal, to do the immersive experience. If you want to do like immersive games, you can use that.
And according to the documentation, right now anyways, Metal can only be used in fully immersive mode and not in any sort of augmented reality or mixed mode. So
yeah,
that's
and right now you couldn't even simulate that thing. If you wanna do anything with like a hands tracking or full body tracking, you have to book a trip to
yeah,
Apple.
and they're
Yeah.
not even available right now. I think if
Yeah.
you go through the developer section of Apple's website and log in with your developer account, I don't think there are any bookings available right now.
Oh, really? Oh, I see. I joined 3 of them, and
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I try everything I can try. And I talked to them that I want to write something related to Vision Pro for the book. And yeah, I mean, they said that anything on the official website you are allowed to kind of share. Yeah, but anything not on the official website, it's not allowed to share. So
Correct. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I really don't like about Apple. They're very closed. So you had a question. I think, Jim, you asked the question if MRTK is going to be ported over to Apple Vision Pro. I certainly hope so, because again, it will make life easier, and I think it will be. And I'm sure that they're working behind the scenes with everyone's working together to make it happen. But I myself don't have any exposure to Vision Pro, or I haven't been doing a lot of, there's no need for me at this point to like engage in that. So I don't have too much info that I can give you, other than to say that dev documents are available, but again, and the SDKs are available, but you do have to have a pro license to get to it.
yeah, and I think that just like Vahé said, that it's Vision Pro, right? It's like some people just use it and they are not allowed to say anything. And then if you see, I mean, I'm trying to see if I can book the next one, just like Jim did. And I find out, just like Jim said, that I couldn't really do anything about it. And even though I try different cool stuff at Vision Pro, like a lab, and yeah, it's not even allowing doing anything, because when you get in, pretty much all your camera will be taped.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah, go ahead.
I saw a tweet a couple of weeks ago, which was pretty funny, because I think somebody was interested in starting and doing development for the Vision Pro, But by the time they actually summed up the amount of investment they have to do, they
Oh,
realized that
yeah,
it's
like
like
8,000.
$8,000 to 10. I don't know if it was on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever, one of the
Yeah.
social networks. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what it is. So,
What-
but that's been always the case with Apple. So, I
Mhm.
mean, they're very closed system. But I'm hoping that as far as the dev framework and the dev tools are, concerned, I hope that they are not gonna be the way they have been in
Yeah.
the past. So I hope that they do actually start collaborating with this open frameworks. If they do OpenXR, then automatically MRTK is going to be in there.
I'm just curious. You said $8,000. There's
Yeah.
okay, let's say $4,000 for the device itself. What is the other $4,000? Is that buying a MacBook Pro or something, or what?
Well, yeah, the actual laptop you need, and obviously you
Oh,
just
okay.
you have to have a Mac to develop anything Mac, right?
Yeah.
I have like a bunch of my primary dev environment is on the Windows, but whenever we do iOS stuff, obviously we have to utilize Mac.
Yeah.
So even with Unity, anything with Unity is the same. If you're deploying on iOS, we have to actually build it on iOS. But yeah, the headset itself is like $3,500 plus, let's say, another. If you want a good computer to do this type of work, I would say you want to invest at least $2,500 for a nice laptop.
Yeah.
And then of course there's the pro license that you also have to subscribe to.
Right.
So altogether is around $8,000,
Yeah.
and that's based on what we know right now. How that's going to change later, we don't know.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So hopefully this was a good info session for everyone. And you got a perspective of what MRTK is and what it can do. Again, it's a framework. It's a framework to enable creating mixed reality applications that can be hardware agnostic, right? So it's kind of like you write once and you can deploy it on multiple devices. And it's been proven. If you don't believe me, I can actually show you. It actually does do what it says. And more hardwares are being supported. So I'm sure that Apple Vision Pro is going to be also supported once it's officially released.
Cool. Anybody? Let me see. If you have any last questions, feel free to ask. Yeah, and Vahé, can you share the book link so I can put the
I think you already
LinkedIn?
did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's in there.
I think it's the last. Yeah.
It is where? I didn't see it.
No problem. I can also share the links to we got the GitHub, right?
Yeah, if you could put that in, that would be great.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
so-
the book. Yeah, I couldn't
Okay.
get the book. Yeah.
So let me go ahead and also share this. So this is the GitHub
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
MRTK.
Mhm.
I'm also going to share this one you don't need
Mhm.
if you're using the clone of the repo, but if you want to start everything from scratch, you're going to need this.
Mhm.
I'm also going to share the latest SDK
Mhm.
link from Meta because the other one has been deprecated. And also, I'm sure you guys, well, we talked about this, but I'll go ahead and share Shapes XR and also Bezier. These are two other great design tools for people who want to, it's kind of like a Figma for 3D, right? So Shapes XR and Bezier.
And
So,
Bezier used to be called Bezel, in case people are confused by that.
yeah. Very cool. And I think they just had a successful round of funding. So they're probably going to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and your book, by the way. I still cannot get your book link.
Oh.
For some reason. It's not showing on my end.
Okay, he sent it to me. He sent it. In fact, I think some of these
Oh,
things.
did I send everything to you?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You
Oh.
are not you are not sending, so I just like
Okay, okay.
I'm just like waiting
That's
for
fine.
everything.
So by the
Sorry,
way, Vahé, I sent you my email address. So if you resolve the stereoscopic 3D imagery stuff, go ahead and send me an email on that.
Absolutely, I will go ahead and do that. So let me quickly send it to the group. Sorry, I think when you raised your hand and I interacted with you, I think by default,
Well, when I sent you the message, it automatically put it in that mode. I'm sorry.
no worries. So let me just resend it here to make life easier. This is the meta. And then we have shapes XR. Thank you, Jim, for actually notifying, because I didn't even see that.
I didn't see it at first either.
Okay, so now you should have all the links. So the first one is my book. The second one is MRTK GitHub. Third one is the Mixed Reality Toolkit, which is optional. Fourth one is the latest from Meta, the SDK, and then the last two are the design tools.
Whoa, yeah, I think I got everything. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, any other questions last minute? Whoa, yeah, thank you so much for today. And I also put like if you want to join XReality Hub, I also put XReality Hub on the chat. So join our hub to get all the information regarding to events and workshop. And Vahé will also kind of teach how to use MRTK as framework, implement it to Quest 3. So if you are interested, stay tuned. It will be probably next year. Like Vahé, when do you think it's the best time to have your workshop?
Sure, I think probably the end of January or the or mid-February.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, yeah, and Vahé will be teaching like what types of topic, or can you give us like what you think about the thing, and who's the target audience and what's the learning objective? For example, after this workshop, what will the student learn?
Sure. So still it's in the framework, but let's say if you do want to, well, it's going to teach you how to basically build a mixed reality application. We probably will have to, I'm not sure exactly what we will be building. I have two ideas. One of them is like a metaverse calculator. So that could be like a simple thing. I might have that for like a hands-on workshop, and have the group to come up with their own like metaverse calculator. So we'll start with the basics, and then I'll let the group come up with much more creative stuff. And the second idea is to actually create some small board game that will include or incorporate a bunch of fundamentals that you would need. And both of them will include all of the fundamentals that you would need for any mixed reality application.
Wow, that sounds very exciting. So maybe we can start with more like an intro, and then later on we might do more longer kind of workshop. For
Sure.
example, like at the beginning maybe set up, right? And later on maybe we can have another bigger one, which is maybe board game. And I think for our audience, our audience is pretty much a lot of artists and trying to learn like how to break into XR industry. So if, for example, if there are some simple ways, for example, like I think Meta Quest 3, the new Meta all-in-one that kind of like a plugin really helps doing like a, drag and drop or plugin like a building blocks. So maybe there's a very simple way for more like a design background or 3D artist to learn, for example, how to create a simple interaction or a simple board game very interesting ways to kind of using MRTK as a framework to simply implement, and maybe at the end, everyone can have a short project to put in their portfolio. Something like that would be great, because I think a lot of people join the workshop, their goal is to switch their career into from UX designer or 3D modeler, filmmaker, animator to XR field. So if there's any way for example, MRTK, when people heard of it, they feel like, wow, that's very technical, but
Yeah.
how can this types of framework really helps people to kind of drag and drop and finally implement. Like, for example, Shift6R, one of their tagline is that, oh, in 45 minutes, you can start from idea to, at the end, export into an actual Unity app in 45 minutes. So
Yeah.
maybe there's a way that, for example, like within a few hours, and you can kind of create a simple board game and using MRTK framework. Something very simpler, simple, and maybe yeah, I know, like some coding language, it might be terrifying. Some UX designer, maybe teaching them how to use ChatGPT to assist how to ask questions, maybe making it very user, very simple, and for UX UI designer to kind of follow. I think that would be awesome. Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something we can work together offline and see, and come up with some sort of a content that would be pleasing but yet impactful.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, thank you so
Cool.
much. And remember to follow our fan page, and also follow Vahé. I've already put all the link there. Feel free to kind of subscribe and become our fans. Yeah, so yeah.
I was just gonna share this LinkedIn too, if just in case anyone wants to connect.
Yeah, I will already post it, but you can also post for me, and I will share to our chat. Okay, so give me a sec. Yeah, because I remember one of our audience told me that I have to start putting all the links, because every time I just very quickly just close it, and people want to follow up, want to learn where to find the next one, they couldn't find it. So I just, for the user experience. Okay, great.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, it's been a
And
pleasure.
yeah, and we will follow up, and Vahé's workshop, we will keep you posted, and yeah, feel free to kind of connect to Vahé or leave any comments or tell us what you are looking for or want to learn, and we want to create the workshop that benefit for you. Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks
Right,
so
thank
much.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
you.